What's up, guys? Nick Kosko, Mike Antosiewicz. Big Ten wrestling tournament just concluded right here at Rutgers, and Scarlet Knights punched 2 automatic tickets to Nationals. Sammy Alvarez and Billy Janser probably going to get wild card bids out of Nick Aguilar and George McGowan. The rest of them, well, we'll just have to wait and see for next week's wild card bids and allocations after everything's all said and done. But Mike, let's just go in order right now. 125. I thought Nick Aguilar wrestled pretty well in this tournament, and the reason why we think he's going to get a wild card bid into Nationals is because he did finish 9th place. He didn't get an automatic bid here for the tournament this weekend, but he beat a couple guys that were, I would say, solid throughout the season. He beat, I believe it was Barnett from Wisconsin twice in this tournament. He couldn't get by Curran again from Indiana, unfortunately, but I thought overall Aguilar had himself a solid tournament. So based on his performance, I would say Nick Aguilar is going to go to Minneapolis in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, I think he's a surefire. I don't think there's really much to debate there. He was ranked most of the season. I mean, I think he was ranked all of January and February. So, and he finished 9th, so it wasn't like he finished 14th.
Right. So 133, Sammy Alvarez, obviously the highlight of the tournament for Rutgers. I mean, the crowd was absolutely electric for Sammy Alvarez for the entire tournament. He finished in 6th. He lost to Pietrasco for the second time this season in the 5th place match, but he wrestled some absolute hammers. We know how loaded the 133-pound weight class is here throughout the entire country, particularly in the Big Ten. So he gets to the quarterfinals, takes on Ramon Bravo Young from Penn State once again, loses 5-2. Okay, no big deal. And then he wins in the WrestleBacks, clinches his spot. He gets Seth Gross in the consolation semifinals, the number 1 ranked wrestler in the country from Wisconsin, and he gave him a great match, 9-6 the final. Just the way he's wrestling. I know he ended his tournament with 2 straight losses, but he finished in 6th. And I think just based on how he's wrestling, that automatic ticket was earned. And I think at this point, I mean, he's a definite contender for a podium spot to be an All-American in Minneapolis.
Yeah, right now he has the highest potential of anyone on the Rutgers roster for this season. I'm speaking, and maybe honestly, moving forward too, he has the highest potential. But for this season now, he could beat anybody. The way he wrestled Gross today it was unbelievable. Gross was taking shots.
He took him down 3 times.
He took Gross down 3 times. Gross was taking shots, and he would counter. He would reverse the shot into his own advantage, and he was scoring in those situations. He was also taking his own shots. Because sometimes you get wrestlers who are good at taking other people's shots
and turning it into points.
Yeah, turning it into points. But he was actually getting his own points, initiating sequences that led to his own points. He's wrestling really well right now. He has so much poise. He is one of the best scramblers around. You know, he's not Spencer Lee, obviously, at scrambling, but he's pretty damn good. He's really exciting wrestler to watch now, and God knows what will happen at Nationals, but I could see him finishing as high as 5th, maybe.
I mean, he is ranked across services 10th and 9th for the intermittent flow. So, I mean, if he gets the right seating, gets the right part of the bracket, I mean, he can go on a deep run. Maybe he was the semifinals. We don't know, because he has the ability to beat a lot of these guys. So moving forward, 141, 149. So first at 141 for Jojo Aragona. Disappointing tournament. I know he beat Baxter of Maryland twice in this one, but I mean, he had a chance to move up, but he just could not get it done. Unfortunately, it just seems like he hit a freshman wall halfway through the year, and I don't think he is going to end up making Nationals this year. He didn't do enough this year. He finished above 500, I believe, when it's all said and done, but unfortunately for Aragona, I think he hit that freshman wall, and then, I mean, at this point, you just go back to the drawing board for him. And then Gerard Angelo, just quickly speak on him at 149. Looking good. He upset Colmar in the first round of this tournament, but then he got hurt in the second round. Looked like a concussion protocol. I believe he does have a concussion. 149 gave out 10 spots. The way the bracket was set up, Angelo probably would have made the top 10 in the Big Ten and got an automatic ticket. So he was ranked earlier in the year. He does have some quality wins, but I think Gerard Angelo and Jojo Aragona, they're going to be on the outside looking in as well for Nationals.
Aragona is looking out. And he's not going to get in. I mean, if he gets in, I think it'd be pretty miraculous, honestly. Unless, 7 wrestlers who qualified get injured, and so there's 7 more spots available.
Right, yeah.
If something like that happens, then yes,
just a tough year for him.
But yeah, and you said, he hit a wall. He didn't hit just a wall. He regressed. He took steps backwards throughout the year. He could not get up when he was on bottom. He could not get out when he was on bottom. And I say up and out, I differentiate them because, literally, he couldn't get just back to his base. He just stayed on the mat, belly down, for minutes just this tournament.
you can still see some of the flash that they obviously saw in him as a recruit. But it's just tough. It was just tough for him all year to kind of string things together.
Yeah, and again, he wrestled Baxter twice, but I have to say, I'm not sure if he scored more than one takedown against Baxter in which he initiated the offensive sequence.
Right.
Most of the time, Baxter was just really not that good as a wrestler, no offense there. And he would take a shot, it was a poor shot, and JoJo's good enough to counter. And then what happens is you get down, so Baxter then has to take even more shots, which is more opportunities for JoJo to counter. So not all around, not very good for Eric Gordon. Going to Angelo.
Just want to say other than that, he had a chance, he got hurt, and then now it's up to the committee.
It's a shame for Angelo because he would be getting in. I think.
Yeah, he would have finished top 10.
It wasn't surefire he was going to win the match that would have let him qualify, but it was pretty. I think any Rutgers fan would be pretty confident. I think he was feeling pretty confident.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but again, he was ranked at some certain points this year.
There's an outside shot, maybe.
Yeah, he was ranked at certain points this year. He did have a nice win in his bracket this year against the ranked opponent. He was a ranked opponent, right?
Yeah, Cole Martin, yes.
Yeah, Cole Martin was ranked. So, I think there's a chance.
I would say a small chance, but we can't totally rule it out that he's not going to get there. But I would say it's unlikely, but there's a small chance.
I say 40% that he does get it, 60% that he doesn't.
Well, there you go. I like those odds, actually. 57, Mike Van Brill. I thought he had a pretty good tournament, actually. Mike Van Brill, we know he's been up and down throughout his career, but above 500. He's had some very close losses this year against some top quality guys. He wrestled really well. He beat Barone of Illinois earlier in the tournament. It was a fantastic win for him, and he ended the tournament with a pin. He ended up finishing seventh. He won his final match, 7th place match with a pin. 57 only gave out 6 spots, so unfortunately he does not get the automatic spot. But I think based on the way he finished, if there's one, besides Aguilar and Pagano, which we'll get to later, if there's one guy on this roster who I think can actually sneak out a wild card spot, I think it's Mike Van Brill. I think he wrestled really well in this tournament.
You think more than Jansen?
Well, Jansen's automatic.
Oh, Jansen's automatic. Excuse me.
Yeah, right.
I
would say so.
Even more than Angelo? I could see it happen. He wrestled well.
I think he has the best shot at a wild card.
But I don't even think he was ranked at all this season.
No, but he was above 500. He does have some quality wins, and the close losses are not going to really count, but he wrestles tough opponents twice. I'm telling you, the tournament counts, and the fact that he wrestled back and finished 7th, just one spot off, the committee's going to look at that and take that into consideration.
I think his odds are just slightly below Angelo's, 30, 70, something like that. 30 gets in, 70 doesn't. You can't rule him out, but I do think Angelo has a stronger case. So we'll see. Listen, the likelihood that he gets in now is enhanced by the way he performed at this tournament. There's
Absolutely.
no doubt about that. But again, I think it raised it from a 20 to a 35% chance, something like that. Nothing that now changes the probability altogether.
Brett Donner's another guy who might have a small chance just based on what he did in the coaches poll. He was ranked in the coaches poll. I believe he might have had an RPI ranking as well, but he was kind of up and down this tournament. He had a chance to move on to the wrestlebacks, but 165 just a little too tough for Brett Donner. So there's really not much to go on about what he could have done. He just missed his opportunities. I think that first match against Oster against Northwestern, if he had won that match, we know how it would have turned out in the bracket. He would have gotten the 14th seed from Indiana because Evan Wick from Wisconsin had the medically forfeit of the tournament. So in a hypothetical scenario, Donner wins that first match, gets the Indiana kid, and he probably wins that one. Then he gets to the semifinals against Alex Marinelli, which would have been mind-blowing for Rutgers fans, considering Brett Donner's seed was, I believe, 11 in this tournament. So, Donner, I thought he wrestled really well down the stretch for Rutgers. He definitely picked it up to get into the top 33 for the coaches poll, but I don't think he did enough quite per se to get a bid to Nationals as well.
Unfortunately, he didn't. I think that everyone on the coaching staff respects him. I think all Rutgers fans respect him, but he just didn't do enough. And also, he doesn't have like a signature win. I think that's such an important category, although it's not officially listed as one.
I think it was just
you need
more
a signature win.
It was just more of him picking it up in the second half of the season that got him some more recognition, but not really that signature win, as you mentioned. 174, Willie Scott, I think the same thing. Filling in for the injured Joe Grello, Willie Scott had a chance. He had to win 2 today to get an automatic spot, so I don't think he's going to get a wild card. There's just not enough criteria with him this year. If it was Grello in that scenario, I think he might get the benefit of the doubt just because of his past pedigree, but for Willie Scott, never being a qualifier in his career at Rutgers. He filled in nicely for Grello, but unfortunately, again, same situation with Donner. I don't think he just did enough this year, and not enough criteria for him as well.
Yeah, again, I don't think he was ranked this season.
He was not.
Was he ranked at any point last season? Was it 84?
No, he was not.
Wasn't ranked.
Maybe the open mat might have thrown him a phone when he was filling in, but other than that, not really.
Unranked this season. Again, the guy who's lacking a signature win. What's really frustrating for him though is that he had the opportunity. Donner had the opportunity. He had the opportunity. There was just a train of mistakes by this Rutgers team this tournament where right now it's like, okay, they'll get 4 people to nationals.
Maybe 5.
They could have had 7 if everything worked out the right way.
Absolutely.
And Scott's one of these people.
Janzer 84, we mentioned him before, automatic qualifier. He finished his 10th in the Big Ten tournament. Now, that may sound crazy, but 10 spots were allocated to the Big Ten. And 184.
Although he was seated 5th.
Yeah, so he wrestled below his seat, unfortunately. Just the way the quarterfinal match against Taylor Venn's the one that sticks out for me because I know he lost to Bernagle again from Illinois in that last match, but the quarterfinal against Venn's the one that sticks out because if he wins that one, he goes on to face Aaron Brooks in a rematch for Penn State. Brooks ended up winning the Big Ten title tonight for Penn State at 184, but he loses 9-3 to Venn's. The one thing that happened was that 6-point move. Janzer I don't know if he stopped taking that shot along the boundary because they were almost going to go out of bounds, but he was in on a shot that Venn's kind of just wrapped his arm around his head, threw the leg over, and somehow locked up a cradle in a defensive position, and then just kind of just ran him over, and all of a sudden it's a cradle, it's a 6-point move, takedown, and back points out of bounds. And then just like that, it ends up being the difference in that match. But I think the way Janzer wrestles, he can beat any of these top guys. Just he does not put that together in the second half of the season. We've seen a lot of great stuff from Billy Janzer all season long. Just lately in the season, particularly the last 2 months, he has not scored as much like he was earlier in the year. But I still think you can't rule out a nice run to the blood round or even to the back end of the podium for him in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I think what you said is absolutely right, that he's just not scoring as much as he used to. But the thing of Janzer is that if you take, where he is best on top and where he's best on bottom and where he's best in neutral, right? He's amazing, right? He'll be
one thing we haven't
he'll
seen,
be top 4 in the podium, right?
Just to interject,
he's just not inconsistent.
Just to interject, the one thing we have not really seen from him as much as we saw earlier in the year was his use of the upper body ties, the overhooks, underhooks, and the inside trips, and going to those ankle picks and knee picks. We have not seen that as much from him. That's his bread and butter. So I think if he maybe goes back to that at nationals, he's going to really surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. Inside trip is gone. Although he still does the outside trip sometimes.
He does,
right? But yeah, I would like to maybe see him work a duck under, work a pass by.
Right.
His predecessor, 184, Nick Gravina. Not so much last year because he was so injured, but Gravina had a nasty pass by.
At his peak. Oh my God!
It was.
Oof.
He beat Taylor Venn's with a pass by, right?
Absolutely.
In Nebraska. So that was 2 seasons ago at this point. So, I think it's disappointing, and I think what's more frustrating and disappointing with Janzer is that you look at him, right? He wins in matches where he's supposed to lose, and then he loses in matches where he's supposed to win.
Yeah.
And I think for a fan, that's just the most frustrating thing.
It is, but he'll continue to develop. I think. We saw again in this tournament. We saw some good things. We also saw some down things that we didn't want to see. But he is going to Minneapolis. We'll see how he does in his first NCAA tournament. Jordan Pagano. This is the big one right here. Not 190 at 197. He is probably most likely. I would say 95% sure he's going to get a wild card bid to nationals based on his resume this year. He's beaten top 10 guys. He's picked off a lot of other ranked guys, and then you look at what Pagano has done the entire year. He just didn't wrestle. He didn't wrestle in the tournament. He had the injury. He had to medically forfeit out of the tournament. Just something they didn't want to push apparently. We don't know what it is, but he is going to be good to go for nationals. That's what we would assume at this point. So he'll get the bid, but I think the biggest thing we take away from Pagano from this tournament is what could have been at home. The way he's been wrestling, he knocked off Ethan Later-Ryder, he knocked off C.J. Brucky Patrick Brucky of Princeton. Those guys are top 10 guys. Brucky was number 3 in the country, and Pagano shot up the rankings. And this is a guy you're like, all right, if he's wrestling and beating these guys, he can make the podium in March, and then who knows? He could be a dark horse to get to the semifinals. Maybe who knows? Maybe he could have gotten to the finals if all breaks right at home here. I think he really could have fed off the home crowd here this tournament.
Pagano to me is like a Sammy Alvarez in the sense that he's not at that elite crust of the weight class, but he could. But he
could pick off one of those guys.
He could pick off one of those. He could pick off anyone. And not just this year, it's just his whole Rutgers career he's been like that. Mm-hmm. It's a shame, but my feeling is that if he really needed a wrestle today, I think, for example, if Rutgers was in the team contest here, and
they could have pushed for
they
him,
would have had him win a few matches, right, to help them in the team contest. Now they were so far removed from competing in the team contest this year that there's really no reason to risk it. All you have to do is make weight, and I think the rule is if you make weight and you forfeit, then you're eligible. But if you don't make weight, you're not eligible. So he made weight, and it's all fine. But I think he's going to be ready to go as well, just because of his demeanor here. He was smiling, he was cheering on his teammates, right? I think if he had, a torn ACL, he wouldn't be that. You know what I mean?
So I think he should be good to go. He'll be as healthy as possible in 2 weeks' time. So finally, Alex Esposito at heavyweight. Obviously, Christian Colucci was hurt after the first semester, and Esposito took over. Him and Carenti, they battled it out, but then Esposito eventually was the full-time starter the past couple of weeks. So, he had an okay showing. Unfortunately for him, he ended up beating Seth Nevels of Penn State, a really good wrestler, via injury default. I thought he was wrestling him actually pretty well at the time, but he got that via injury default. He loses to Steve Stevenson, the eventual champion for the Big Ten here from Minnesota in the quarterfinals. But then he gets Panola from Purdue, who Carenti should have beaten in that dual meet, lost him 3-2, lost the buzzer. And Esposito just lost 8-1. Unfortunately, that was the end of his tournament because heavyweight denied a ninth place bracket.
I don't remember, but that match, he was wrestling really, really well. And then I don't know if he tried a reshot, but he literally he tripped and threw him onto him at the same time. It was a bizarre move because right before that there was a sequence.
And that was the difference.
There was a sequence which he initiated, Esposito did, and he almost scored. And then they stood
he was
up.
Like getting back
Panola
up
took a shot. And I guess I'll take a reshot now. And basically, he tripped and threw the guy on top of him right to near fall, and that was the match.
And that was pretty much the difference right there. Otherwise, I thought Esposito, at least this year, just to kind of quickly wrap up on him, he showed some flashes like, hey, he's an athletic heavyweight. He can do some stuff.
And he's strong.
He's strong. He is very, very strong. So hopefully we'll see what he develops into next year. But that's pretty much it. So Rutgers will get Alvarez and Janzer automatically to Minneapolis, probably get Aguilar and Pagano to join them via the wild card, and maybe they get Angelo or Mike Van Bro, maybe even both. You never know how these wild cards turn out, depending upon how the other conference tournaments go as well. So we could see as low as
Pagano,
4. I said Pagano. I said Pagano. So we can get as low as 4, I would say, because Aguilar and Pagano, I think most definitely will get the wild card bid. So we'll get maybe 4 to 6 at the most for Rutgers, but I would say most likely 4 this year in Minneapolis. So that's going to do it for us. For Mike Antosiewicz, I am Nick Kosko. We were saying so long. Not sure what we're going to do for Nationals. Maybe we'll do a little Skype call or something. Yeah. We'll figure it out. But obviously, Rutgers heads out to Minneapolis for NCAAs in 2 weeks. Be there or be square, or just watch it on TV like we will this year. Unfortunately, we're not going to be out there. But we had a great time here at Rutgers here at the Big Ten Tournament. Hope you guys enjoyed these recaps as well.